Hi everybody and welcome back to Jaffa Cooks, and today I'll show you how to make homemade pita bread. So pita bread, homemade, let's do it today. A lot of people think it's impossible or very difficult to make homemade pita bread, but I'm going to show you a very simple recipe that will allow you to make homemade pita bread. So I'm going to show you how to make homemade pita bread. You can use that with my homemade hummus and my homemade falafel, and keep watching on this channel and I'll show you how to make homemade doner kebab as well. So without further ado, let's start with the recipe. So I've got a cup of lukewarm water and I'm going to mix in the yeast and sugar. And it's very important that we use room temperature, lukewarm water, to make sure that the yeast doesn't, or the yeast can react properly. So I'm just going to leave that there for a minute. Just give it a quick mix and this will start mixing in, and you can see the reaction already started to happen with the yeast. Right, so whilst my yeast is actively working its magic, I'm going to now pour in 375 grams of all-purpose plain flour and my salt. Now, whilst I'm prepping the machine, it's always good to notice that do give your yeast about 5 minutes, a good 5-6 minutes. Just make sure that there are some bubbles forming. That shows that the reaction has already taken place, and it's a good time to pour your mixture into the flour. So I'm just going to start my machine off on a slow speed, and then I'll introduce the yeast and water mixture to the flour slowly, and then I'll get back to you in a couple of minutes. So welcome back. My dough's ready, and I'm just going to remove it, and I'll show you what it actually looks like. So mixing the dough, you can do it in a machine or you can do it by hand. So if you're kneading it by hand, good 10 to 15 minutes, I would say. But if you're kneading it in a machine, about 5 to 10 minutes. Now, this is the consistency of my dough for my pita bread now. It's quite soft. It's like plasticine. So what I'm going to do next is cover this in olive oil, pop a damp cloth over it, and let it rest for about 40 minutes. Make sure it's properly covered with olive oil, just to make sure there's no bits left out without olive oil, otherwise they'll crust up and dry. So I'm just going to take my damp cloth. Just going to make sure that it's properly covered. I'll keep the moisture in, stop it from drying up. Okay, so I'll see you back in about 40 minutes. Hello and welcome back. My dough has obviously risen in size considerably, as you can see. So what we're going to do now is make around about 10 dough balls, and then I'll show you how to then roll them out about a 1/4 inch thick, and then we'll start cooking them off and we'll have homemade pita bread. All right, so let's get going. So I'm just going to pull out my dough. Just give it a bit of flour just to make sure it doesn't stick. So I'm one of those who really doesn't have a keen eye for measurement. So I'm going to, one of the ways I do it is either divide it into half and carry on dividing it, or another one is I try to measure it with my finger. So I'm just going to give it a quick measurement: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, halfway. That's pretty good to me. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's my 10th one. No, it looks good. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's my 10 cuttings. So all I've now got to do is create 10 dough balls. So I'm sure most of you do know how to create a dough ball, but if you don't, it's really simple. Just take the dough, and what you want to do is basically fold it in to the bottom to ensure that you have a really nice smooth top. And as you're doing that, you're just pinching the base to make sure it's sealed. So I'm going to make my 10 dough balls, and I'll see you back shortly. All right, so my dough balls are done, and you'll see that I've kept them covered with a moist cloth just so that they don't dry out. And at the same time, I've got a flat pan or a tawa on the hob at a low heat. So now all we have to do is roll these out. So to roll out your dough ball, I've got one of these fancy gadgets that guides basically a 1/4 or an 1/8 inch thickness. But not everybody has one of these, so I'm going to put this away, and I'm going to go the traditional way, which is eye and sight. So I'm going to take one of my dough balls, just lightly flour it, just squash it down a bit, and all it is basically just gently roll it back and forth, and then roll it, turn it over, and again, just as you get towards the edge, go easy on the pressure. So what you end up is something of an oval shape, which resembles a pita bread. So I'm just going to go widthwise, give it a bit of depth, and one more, and that's what it should look like. It's not a full-size pita bread. It's like a mini pita pocket. So that's what size it should sit in the palm of your hand. Maybe slightly smaller than your hand, or larger, depends on your size, but around about that size. Now, to cook this off, it's very easy. I've got a flat pan behind me, and I'm just going to put it on the pan, apply a little bit of pressure on it, and then I'll come across and I'll show you how it's done. Okay, so I've rolled out 2 pita breads this time. And what we want to do is just leave them there for a minute or two and watch for the bubbles to form. And the bubble then tells us that both sides, the top and the bottom, have started to separate. And then I'll show you what to do then. We do require a little bit of browning on the bottom, on the base that's cooking. So you can see the bubbles are forming. I'm just going to have a quick peek. Yep, I need maybe another 10 seconds, and then we'll flip them over. Okay, very carefully flip them over. There's a little bit of browning, that's fine. Now, I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure on each side. You can see that the bread is now separating. Both layers are separating and creating a hollow in the middle. Perfect. And that's your pita bread. Okay, so welcome back. Those are your homemade pita breads that you've just made now. Now, just to show you at the end what it should look like. So if I take one of my pita breads, again, a little bit of browning on the side. I'm just going to take one. And if you've ever been to a doner kebab shop, you'll see that they slit the bread on top and then I'm going to open mine up just like that, and this is where the magic all happens. You can stuff your pita bread with hummus, falafel, tarma salata, chicken kebabs, anything you want. Fill and enjoy. I'll see you again.